Night settled gently over the emerald hills. The silver mist drifted quietly through the cedar forest, wrapping every tree and wildflower in a soft blanket. Tap, tap, tap. Inside the little cottage, the fire burned with a warm amber glow. Its gentle crackling blended with the whisper of the rain outside. The orange cat slept peacefully beside Eleanor's rocking chair, rising and falling with slow, contented breaths. Eleanor turned another page of her old storybook. The familiar words felt as comforting as an old friend. After reading for a while, she carefully closed the book and placed it back on the wooden shelf. She blew out the small candle beside her chair, leaving only the soft light of the fireplace dancing across the room. The cottage became wonderfully quiet. Outside, the woodland stream continued its gentle journey beneath the hidden wooden bridge. Moonlight slipped through breaks in the clouds, painting silver patterns across the clear water. A family of tiny rabbits emerged from the ferns. They paused beside the stream, listening to the peaceful sounds of the forest, before hopping silently into a nearby meadow. Far above, the ancient cedar trees swayed ever so gently. Their branches whispered together in the cool night breeze. The forest seemed to breathe slowly, as though it too had settled down for a restful sleep. Eleanor opened her bedroom window just a little. Fresh rain-scented air drifted inside, carrying the soothing melody of flowing water and distant leaves rustling in the wind. She smiled softly. Every evening in Emerald Hills felt like a quiet gift. Every gentle rain brought new peace. As she climbed into her cozy bed, she pulled the patchwork quilt up to her shoulders. The orange cat curled up at the foot of the bed without making a sound. Soon the old grandfather clock quietly marked another passing hour. Its slow chime echoed gently through the cottage before fading into silence. Outside, the rain continued its peaceful rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. The hidden bridge, the woodland stream, the emerald hills, and the little cottage all rested together beneath the calm night sky, waiting for another gentle morning to arrive. Before the first light of dawn reached the Emerald Hills, the world remained wonderfully still. The rain had softened into a delicate mist that drifted quietly through the cedar forest. Tap, tap, tap. Inside the little cottage, the last glowing embers rested peacefully in the fireplace. The old grandfather clock ticked slowly. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Eleanor was still asleep beneath her patchwork quilt. The orange cat dreamed quietly at the foot of the bed, its whiskers twitching ever so slightly. Outside, the woodland stream flowed beneath the hidden wooden bridge, its gentle song never hurrying. A light breeze stirred the ferns. Tiny drops of water slipped from their green leaves into the clear stream below. As the eastern sky slowly brightened, the first birds began to wake. A robin sang a single cheerful note. Soon another answered from a nearby cedar tree. Before long, the forest was filled with soft, welcoming birdsong. Golden light filtered through the mist, touching the tops of the emerald hills. The wildflowers opened their petals one by one. Tiny white daisies, blue forget-me-nots, and purple woodland violets glistened with sparkling raindrops. Inside the cottage, Eleanor opened her eyes with a peaceful smile. She listened for a moment. The birds, the whispering rain, the distant stream, the comforting tick of the old clock. Every familiar sound reminded her that another gentle day had begun. She wrapped her green shawl around her shoulders and stepped onto the little front porch. The cool morning air carried the fresh scent of pine, wet earth, and blooming flowers. She took a slow, deep breath. The hills stretched quietly before her, covered in shimmering mist. Everything looked fresh. Everything looked calm. Everything seemed to welcome the new day with quiet gratitude. Eleanor smiled warmly and watched the morning unfold. knowing that somewhere beyond the cedar trees, the hidden wooden bridge and its peaceful stream were waiting for another gentle visit. And across the emerald hills, the whispering rain continued its timeless lullaby. Tap. The morning drifted softly across the emerald hills. A gentle mist still lingered among the cedar trees, turning the distant forest into a world of silver and green. Tap, tap, tap. After a simple breakfast of warm oatmeal, honey, and a cup of fragrant herbal tea, Eleanor picked up a small wicker basket. Today, she wished to visit the old meadow beyond the woodland stream. The narrow path curved quietly through the forest. Raindrops rested on fern leaves like tiny pearls. Wildflowers swayed gently beside the trail. Soon Eleanor reached the hidden wooden bridge. The clear stream flowed peacefully beneath it, carrying little leaves on a slow and unhurried journey. She paused for a moment at the center of the bridge and listened. The soft rain, the murmuring water, the distant birdsong. Together they created a melody as calm as a lullaby. Crossing the bridge, Eleanor followed another path she had almost forgotten. It led through a grove of ancient cedar trees until the forest slowly opened. Before her stretched a quiet meadow. Tall grasses moved gently in the breeze. Yellow daisies, purple lupines, and tiny white flowers covered the hillside like a colorful blanket. At the edge of the meadow stood an old wooden bench. Its wood had grown smooth through many seasons of rain and sunshine. Eleanor sat quietly and looked across the hills. Far away, soft clouds drifted over the emerald peaks. A pair of butterflies floated among the flowers. Bees hummed softly from blossom to blossom. Everything moved slowly. Everything felt peaceful. From her basket, Eleanor took out a small notebook. She liked to write gentle thoughts whenever she visited beautiful places. Today she wrote only a few simple words. Quiet moments are like little treasures. The more carefully we notice them, the more peace they bring. She smiled and closed the notebook. The rain continued to whisper. Tap, tap, tap. After resting for a while, Eleanor began her walk back through the meadow, carrying the calm beauty of the morning in her heart. And the hidden bridge, the gentle stream, and the emerald hills remained just as they had always been, quiet, patient, and full of peaceful wonder. The afternoons settled gently over the emerald hills. The rain had become little more than a soft mist. Tap, tap. Eleanor returned to her little wooden cottage as the old grandfather clock chimed 4 quiet notes. The orange cat was waiting on the front porch, curled comfortably upon the warm wooden step. It opened one sleepy eye as Eleanor approached. Then it stretched slowly before rubbing against her boots. "Hello again," Eleanor whispered with a smile. Together they stepped inside. The cottage felt warm and welcoming. A gentle fire glowed quietly in the stone fireplace. Its golden light danced softly across the wooden walls. Eleanor placed her wicker basket upon the table. Inside, she found a tiny bluebell blossom that had quietly fallen into the basket during her walk. She smiled. It felt like one last little gift from the meadow. Rather than keeping it pressed inside a book, she filled a small glass jar with fresh water and placed the blossom beside the window. Outside, fine raindrops shimmered against the glass. Beyond them, the cedar trees stood peacefully in the gentle mist. The world seemed wrapped in a blanket of calm. Eleanor settled into her favorite rocking chair. The chair creaked softly, back and forth, back and forth. The orange cat climbed onto her lap and quickly fell asleep. Its gentle purring blended with the quiet rain. Tap, purr. For a long while, Eleanor did nothing at all. She simply watched the rain. Sometimes the happiest moments asked nothing more than stillness. As the afternoon slowly faded, a faint golden light appeared beneath the clouds. The sun, hidden for most of the day, found a small opening in the sky. Warm rays slipped through the mist. Every raindrop sparkled like a tiny crystal. The emerald hills glowed brighter than ever. The wet leaves shimmered with silver and gold. For only a few peaceful minutes, the whole valley seemed to shine. Eleanor whispered softly, "Even gentle days have beautiful endings." The sunlight slowly faded, the mist returned, and the quiet rhythm of rain continued its timeless song. Tap, tap, tap. The little bluebell by the window stood peacefully in its glass jar, catching the last soft light of the day. Eleanor smiled, knowing that tomorrow would bring another gentle walk, another quiet discovery, and another peaceful memory waiting somewhere among the emerald hills. Outside, the forest rested beneath the whispering rain. Inside, the cottage glowed with warmth, and little by little, the peaceful evening welcomed the coming night. Evening arrived quietly over the emerald hills. The last traces of daylight faded behind the distant, cedar-covered mountains. Soft gray clouds drifted across the sky. The gentle rain continued its peaceful rhythm. Tap, tap. Inside the little wooden cottage, the fire crackled softly in the stone fireplace. Its warm glow filled every corner with golden light. The bluebell blossom still rested in its small glass jar beside the window. Its delicate petals seemed to shine against the misty evening beyond the glass. The orange cat remained asleep in Eleanor's lap, breathing slowly and peacefully. The old grandfather clock marked the passing hours with calm, steady chimes. Each sound echoed gently through the quiet cottage. Eleanor rose carefully, making sure not to disturb her sleepy companion. She placed another small log onto the fire. Tiny sparks floated upward before disappearing into the chimney. The room grew even warmer. Soon she prepared a simple evening meal. Fresh vegetable soup simmered quietly in a small iron pot. The comforting aroma of herbs filled the cottage. She sliced a piece of warm homemade bread and poured herself a cup of chamomile tea, sweetened with a little honey. There was no rush. Every movement was slow. Every moment was peaceful. After supper, Eleanor washed her dishes and dried them with a soft linen towel. She enjoyed the gentle rhythm of ordinary tasks. Even the quiet clink of a teacup felt comforting. Outside, the rain whispered through the cedar branches. A cool breeze carried the scent of wet earth and pine needles. The forest seemed to breathe with the evening. Before closing the curtains, Eleanor opened the cottage door for just a moment. Fresh rain-cooled air drifted inside. She listened carefully. Far away, an owl called from the forest. A tiny stream murmured in the distance. The rain answered with its familiar song. Tap, tap, tap. She smiled softly. The emerald hills were settling down for the night, just as she was. Closing the door, Eleanor lit a small beeswax candle and placed it on the windowsill. Its gentle flame flickered peacefully, reflecting in the rain-speckled glass. The little bluebell beside it seemed almost to glow in the warm light. She opened her notebook once more. On a fresh page she wrote, "Some evenings ask us to do very little. They simply invite us to listen, to rest, and to be grateful for the quiet." Eleanor closed the notebook and held it gently for a moment. Outside, darkness wrapped itself around the hills. Inside, the cottage remained warm, safe, and filled with gentle light. The orange cat stretched, circled twice beside the fireplace, and settled into its favorite sleeping place. Eleanor smiled as she watched it drift into dreams. The rain continued its endless lullaby. Tap, tap, tap. and beneath the peaceful night sky, the little cottage, the whispering forest, and the emerald hills all rested together, waiting quietly for another gentle dawn. The afternoon sunshine softened as the little wooden riverboat continued its peaceful voyage. The river flowed quietly between rolling green hills, reflecting the blue sky like a great mirror. Splash, splash, splash. Captain Elias stood at the helm with a gentle smile. A cool breeze carried the sweet scent of blooming jasmine from the riverbank. Ahead, he noticed a small wooden windmill standing beside an open meadow. Its weathered blades turned slowly in the gentle wind. Nearby, a narrow path wound through fields of wildflowers, where butterflies drifted lazily from blossom to blossom. Captain Elias guided the boat toward a tiny wooden pier. He tied the boat securely and stepped onto the grassy shore. The meadow was peaceful. Golden daisies, purple lavender, and bright blue cornflowers swayed together beneath the warm afternoon sun. A friendly rabbit paused beside the path, twitching its nose before hopping quietly into the tall grass. Captain Elias followed the path until he reached a quiet orchard filled with old apple and pear trees. Their branches were heavy with ripe fruit. He picked a crisp apple, thanked the generous land with a quiet smile, and sat beneath a broad oak tree. There he enjoyed a simple afternoon snack of fresh fruit, warm oat biscuits, and cool spring water. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead. Somewhere nearby, a brook sang softly over smooth stones. Time seemed to slow. There was no hurry, only the peaceful rhythm of nature. As the sun began its slow descent, Captain Elias returned to the riverboat. He untied the rope and allowed the gentle current to carry him forward once more. The sky slowly changed from bright blue to soft shades of amber and rose. Swallows skimmed gracefully across the water, catching the last insects of the day. In the distance, the first evening star appeared. Captain Elias lit his small lantern once again. Its warm glow reflected on the calm river, dancing gently with every tiny ripple. The little boat floated quietly toward another calm night, while the peaceful river whispered its endless song beneath the growing stars. Night embraced the peaceful river with gentle stillness. The moon climbed slowly above the quiet hills, bathing the water in a soft silver glow. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat drifted silently beneath a sky filled with countless stars. Captain Elias rested comfortably on the deck, wrapped in a warm wool blanket. A small lantern glowed beside him, its gentle light swaying with the rhythm of the boat. The cool night air carried the sweet fragrance of wild jasmine and fresh cedar. Somewhere along the riverbank, a nightingale began to sing. Its gentle melody floated through the darkness like a soothing lullaby. Captain Elias closed his eyes for a moment and simply listened. There was nothing else to hear, only the quiet song of the bird, the soft whisper of the breeze, and the peaceful murmur of the river. As the boat rounded a gentle bend, a wide lake opened before him. Its still waters reflected the moon and stars so perfectly that the sky seemed to continue beneath the boat. Tiny fish occasionally broke the surface with a soft splash before disappearing into the silver water. Near the far shore, reeds swayed gently, while fireflies blinked among them like tiny floating lanterns. Captain Elias lowered the anchor in the center of the quiet lake. The boat rocked ever so slightly. He brewed a warm cup of lavender tea and opened his journal once again. Tonight he wrote, "Every quiet mile along the river teaches the heart to slow down and notice the beauty that has always been there." He closed the journal and smiled. The peaceful journey was never about reaching a destination. It was about discovering calm in every sunrise, every gentle breeze, every bird song, and every quiet ripple upon the water. Splash, Splash, splash. Above, the stars sparkled without end. Below, the riverboat rested peacefully upon the silent lake. And beneath the watchful moon, Captain Elias drifted into another deep and restful sleep, ready to welcome whatever peaceful adventure the next dawn would gently bring. The first glow of dawn slowly touched the eastern horizon. A soft blanket of mist rested upon the quiet lake, making the distant shoreline appear like a dream. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat floated gently where Captain Elias had anchored the night before. The morning air was cool and fresh. Tiny drops of dew sparkled upon the polished wooden deck. Captain Elias awoke to the cheerful songs of larks and swallows greeting the new day. He smiled, stretched peacefully, and stepped outside his cozy cabin. The lake was perfectly still. Only a few gentle ripples spread across the water as a family of swans glided silently through the silver mist. Captain Elias brewed a warm cup of peppermint tea and watched the rising sun. Slowly, golden light filled the sky. The mist began to lift, revealing green hills, quiet forests, and rocky cliffs surrounding the peaceful lake. After a simple breakfast of warm oatmeal, fresh strawberries, and a drizzle of honey, he quietly raised the anchor. The little riverboat drifted toward a narrow channel leading back to the winding river. As the journey continued, the river flowed between towering cliffs covered with moss and graceful ferns. Crystal clear water trickled from tiny springs hidden among the rocks. The gentle sound echoed softly through the peaceful valley. A pair of kingfishers flashed brilliant shades of blue as they skimmed across the river. Nearby, playful otters floated on their backs, spinning gently with the slow current before slipping beneath the water with quiet splashes. Captain Elias laughed softly. Their joyful play brought an extra warmth to the peaceful morning. By midday, he discovered a small pebble beach where smooth stones shimmered beneath the clear water. He guided the boat ashore and enjoyed a quiet picnic beneath a graceful birch tree. Fresh bread, creamy cheese, ripe pears, and cool spring water made the simple meal feel like a feast. After resting for a while, he wandered along the shoreline, collecting a few beautifully polished stones. Each one was different. Each carried its own quiet story, shaped patiently by the river over many years. Captain Elias placed the stones inside a small wooden box aboard the boat. Gentle reminder that time and patience can create unexpected beauty. Splash, splash, splash. As the afternoon breeze carried the little riverboat onward once again, the peaceful river curved toward another unknown bend, inviting Captain Elias to continue his calm and unhurried adventure into the heart of the quiet valley. The afternoon drifted gently into early evening. Warm sunlight rested upon the peaceful river, painting the water with soft shades of gold and amber. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat glided quietly between gentle hills. Captain Elias stood at the bow, enjoying the cool breeze that carried the scent of wild roses and fresh pine. The river soon widened into a peaceful meadow where tall reeds swayed like waves in the wind. Dozens of white lilies floated gracefully across the calm water. Bright dragonflies hovered above them, their delicate wings shimmering in the fading sunlight. A gentle family of turtles rested on a smooth fallen log near the shore. As the boat passed, they slipped silently into the river with tiny ripples that quickly disappeared. Captain Elias smiled at the quiet moment. Farther downstream, he noticed an old stone arch bridge stretching across the river. Its weathered stones were covered with soft green moss, and climbing ivy hung gracefully over the sides. The little boat drifted beneath the bridge. For a few peaceful moments, the only sound was the gentle echo of the flowing water. Splash, Beyond the bridge, the valley opened into a broad field of golden grasses. A gentle breeze swept across the meadow, making the grasses sway together like waves upon a quiet sea. Several horses grazed peacefully in the distance. They lifted their heads as the boat floated by, before calmly returning to their evening meal. Captain Elias lowered the sails and allowed the slow current to carry the boat without effort. There was no need to hurry. The river always knew the way. As the sun touched the horizon, the sky became a beautiful canvas of orange, pink, and lavender. The first stars appeared one by one, while a slender crescent moon rose quietly above the distant hills. Captain Elias lit his familiar lantern. Its warm glow reflected across the river in a long ribbon of golden light. He prepared a comforting supper of warm vegetable stew, fresh bread, and a cup of fragrant chamomile tea. Sitting peacefully on the deck, he watched the evening settle over the valley. The world grew quieter with every passing moment. Only the gentle river, the whispering breeze, and the soft chorus of crickets remained. Splash, splash. Wrapped in the calm embrace of nature, the little wooden riverboat continued its timeless journey beneath the growing stars, carrying Captain Elias toward yet another peaceful dawn waiting beyond the quiet horizon. The night slowly gave way to another peaceful morning. A pale golden light spread across the eastern sky, while a thin veil of mist drifted gently over the quiet river. The little wooden riverboat floated silently beneath the awakening dawn. Captain Elias stepped onto the deck, carrying his favorite wooden mug filled with warm herbal tea. He breathed deeply. The cool morning air smelled of cedar, fresh grass, and the sweet fragrance of blooming clover. As the first rays of sunlight reached the water, the river sparkled like thousands of tiny crystals. A pair of graceful swans glided past the boat, their white feathers glowing in the gentle light. Behind them, several fluffy cygnets paddled carefully, following their parents across the calm river. Captain Elias watched with a peaceful smile until they disappeared around a bend. Soon, the river carried him into a quiet woodland where towering pine trees stretched toward the clear blue sky. Sunlight filtered through the branches, creating dancing patterns of light upon the water. A red squirrel scampered along a fallen log, pausing to watch the little boat before disappearing into the forest. Further downstream, Captain Elias heard the soft sound of running water. A narrow waterfall tumbled gently over smooth rocks into the river below. The water sparkled like silver threads beneath the morning sun. He guided the riverboat toward the shore and climbed a winding path beside the waterfall. At the top, he discovered a peaceful clearing filled with blooming wildflowers. Bluebells, daisies, and golden buttercups swayed gently in the breeze. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient oak tree, whose broad branches offered cool shade. Captain Elias sat beneath the tree and enjoyed a simple breakfast of warm oatcakes, fresh blueberries, and a little jar of honey. A robin landed nearby, singing a cheerful tune that echoed softly through the quiet forest. After resting for a while, he returned to the riverboat. The gentle current welcomed him once again. Splash! The little wooden boat drifted onward beneath the bright morning sky. There was no map to follow, no clock to watch. Only the peaceful river, the whispering trees, the singing birds, and the promise of another beautiful day unfolding one gentle bend at a time. The morning drifted peacefully toward midday. The river shimmered beneath the bright blue sky, while soft white clouds floated lazily above the quiet valley. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat continued its gentle journey, carried by the slow and steady current. Captain Elias rested one hand on the polished wooden rail. He smiled as a cool breeze brushed across his face, carrying the sweet scent of blooming honeysuckle. Around the next bend, he discovered a peaceful riverside village. Small wooden cottages with flower-filled gardens stood beneath ancient elm trees. Thin streams of smoke curled gently from a few stone chimneys, as families quietly began their day. Captain Elias guided the boat to a tiny wooden dock. The villagers greeted him with warm smiles and friendly waves. An elderly baker offered him a freshly baked loaf of bread, still warm from the oven. A gardener filled a small basket with ripe peaches, juicy plums, and fragrant herbs. Captain Elias thanked them kindly and wished everyone a peaceful day before continuing his journey. Soon the village faded behind him. The river flowed once again through open countryside, where fields of golden wheat swayed gently beneath the summer breeze. Butterflies danced among bright red poppies along the riverbank. High above, a hawk circled gracefully in the clear afternoon sky. By midday, Captain Elias found a quiet sandy shore, shaded by tall cottonwood trees. He tied the little riverboat to a sturdy post and spread a soft blanket beneath the shade. His simple lunch was fresh bread, creamy cheese, sweet peaches, and cool spring water. After eating, he lay back for a few peaceful moments. The leaves rustled softly overhead. The gentle breeze cooled the warm afternoon. Everything felt calm. Everything felt unhurried. When it was time to continue, Captain Elias untied the boat and allowed the current to lead the way once more. Splash, splash. As the peaceful river curved toward distant hills, he watched sunlight sparkle upon the water, like tiny golden stars. There was no need to know what waited ahead. Every bend revealed another quiet wonder. Every mile brought another peaceful memory. And with a grateful heart, Captain Elias followed the gentle river onward, ready to welcome whatever beautiful scene the next bend would quietly reveal. The gentle afternoon slowly melted into evening. The sun hung low above the peaceful valley, filling the sky with warm shades of amber, rose, and soft violet. The little wooden riverboat drifted quietly along the calm river. Captain Elias rested at the helm, watching the golden light dance across the water. A cool breeze carried the scent of blooming roses and fresh cedar from the nearby hills. Ahead, the river curved around a quiet woodland where tall pine and maple trees stood side by side. Their reflections stretched across the still water like a beautiful painting. As the boat rounded the bend, Captain Elias noticed a small family of beavers working near the riverbank. They carefully carried tiny branches to their lodge, moving patiently and without hurry. He paused for a moment, admiring how peacefully they worked together. Farther downstream, the forest opened into a broad meadow, glowing in the evening light. Hundreds of tiny wildflowers nodded gently in the breeze. A herd of graceful horses wandered through the tall grass, their coats shining softly beneath the setting sun. Captain Elias slowed the boat even more, simply enjoying the quiet beauty around him. Soon he found a peaceful cove sheltered by ancient willow trees. Their long branches brushed the surface of the river, making gentle circles upon the water. He lowered the anchor with care. The boat came to rest. Everything became wonderfully still. Captain Elias gathered a few small sticks and lit a tiny campfire in a safe stone fire ring on the shore. He warmed a pot of vegetable soup, toasted slices of fresh bread, and enjoyed a cup of fragrant lavender tea as the daylight slowly faded. Nearby, fireflies began to appear. Their tiny golden lights floated through the evening air, like little stars searching for a place to rest. One by one, the first stars appeared above the valley. Soon the moon rose quietly over the hills, filling the river with a ribbon of silver light. Captain Elias sat quietly on the deck, wrapped in his favorite blanket. He listened to the peaceful sounds of nature. The whispering breeze through the willow leaves. The gentle murmur of the flowing river. Splash, splash, Splash! He closed his eyes for a moment and smiled. Tomorrow would bring another sunrise, another gentle bend in the river, another peaceful adventure waiting to unfold. And beneath the calm moonlit sky, the little wooden riverboat rested quietly in the sheltered cove, while Captain Elias drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, carried gently by the timeless rhythm of the river. A quiet silence rested over the peaceful cove before dawn. The moon was slowly fading as the eastern sky welcomed the first gentle colors of morning. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat rocked softly beneath the graceful willow trees. Captain Elias awoke to the sweet melody of songbirds greeting another beautiful day. He stepped onto the deck with a warm wool sweater around his shoulders. The cool air felt fresh and clean. Tiny drops of dew sparkled on the wooden railing like tiny pearls. Captain Elias prepared a steaming cup of chamomile tea and watched the sunrise unfold. Slowly, the golden light reached the tops of the hills. Then it spread across the river, turning the calm water into a ribbon of shimmering gold. He quietly lifted the anchor. The little riverboat drifted away from the sheltered cove, following the gentle current once more. The river narrowed between towering sycamore trees, whose broad branches formed a peaceful canopy overhead. Soft rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating dancing patches of light upon the water. A kingfisher perched on a low branch before diving gracefully into the river. Moments later, it returned with a tiny fish and disappeared into the forest. Farther ahead, Captain Elias discovered a quiet bend where a crystal-clear stream joined the river. The gentle sound of flowing water filled the air with calm. He guided the boat to the grassy shore and followed the little stream through a carpet of emerald moss. The path led him to a hidden meadow surrounded by ancient oak trees. In the center stood a circle of smooth stones, with a small wooden bench facing the morning sun. Captain Elias sat there for a while, enjoying the peaceful stillness. He ate a simple breakfast of warm oat bread, fresh raspberries, and golden honey. A gentle breeze carried the fragrance of wild lavender and blooming clover across the meadow. Nearby, colorful butterflies floated lazily among the flowers. Time seemed to stand still. There were no clocks, no crowded roads, no rushing footsteps. Only the quiet whisper of the wind, the cheerful songs of birds, and the endless kindness of the river. Splash, splash, splash. As the morning slowly unfolded into another beautiful day, Captain Elias returned to his little wooden riverboat. With a grateful heart and a peaceful smile, he continued his gentle voyage, knowing that every bend in the river held another quiet wonder waiting to be discovered. The gentle mornings slowly ripened into a peaceful afternoon. Sunlight sparkled across the river, while soft white clouds drifted quietly through the endless blue sky. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat floated steadily with the gentle current. Captain Elias hummed a quiet tune as he guided the boat between grassy riverbanks lined with wildflowers. Blue cornflowers, bright buttercups, and delicate white daisies nodded gracefully in the warm breeze. Ahead, the river curved toward a peaceful woodland, where towering birch trees stood beside graceful aspens. Their silver trunks shimmered softly in the afternoon light. As the boat glided beneath their branches, dozens of tiny birds fluttered from tree to tree, filling the air with cheerful melodies. Captain Elias paused for a moment to enjoy the chorus. There was no louder sound than birdsong and the gentle murmur of the river. Soon, he spotted a narrow inlet leading to a hidden pond. Curious, he guided the little riverboat through the calm passage. The pond lay perfectly still, surrounded by tall reeds and blooming water lilies. Bright green frogs rested quietly on broad lily pads. Dragonflies with shimmering blue wings danced above the water, catching the sunlight like tiny jewels. At the edge of the pond stood a weathered wooden gazebo wrapped in climbing roses. Captain Elias tied the boat to a nearby post and walked toward it. Inside the gazebo, a smooth wooden table overlooked the peaceful water. He unpacked a simple meal of warm barley soup, fresh bread, crisp cucumbers, and sweet cherries. After lunch, he leaned back on the bench and listened. The rustling reeds, the distant buzzing of bees, the soft breeze moving through the willow branches. Everything blended into a gentle melody of nature. Before leaving, Captain Elias filled a small glass bottle with clear pond water. Not to keep forever, but as a quiet reminder of this peaceful place. Back aboard the riverboat, he carefully returned the bottle to the river, smiling as the gentle current carried it away. Some memories, he thought, are best kept in the heart, rather than in our hands. Splash! 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 The afternoon sun slowly began its journey toward the western hills. The little wooden riverboat slipped quietly back into the flowing river, carrying Captain Elias onward toward another calm evening, another peaceful bend, and another beautiful chapter waiting just beyond the horizon. Evening arrived with quiet grace over the peaceful river. The setting sun painted the sky with gentle shades of gold, coral, and lavender, while the calm water reflected every color like a living mirror. Splash! Splash! The little wooden riverboat drifted slowly toward a wide bend, where the river flowed through a valley of ancient oak trees. Captain Elias stood quietly at the bow, enjoying the cool evening breeze. The scent of pine, wild thyme, and fresh river water filled the air. Along the shoreline, tall reeds swayed gently. A family of graceful swans glided through the golden reflections, their movements so smooth that they barely disturbed the water. Captain Elias watched them with a warm smile before continuing downstream. Soon he noticed a small wooden boathouse resting beside an old stone dock. Its roof was covered with soft green moss, and climbing ivy wrapped around its weathered walls. Beside the boathouse stood an elderly fisherman. He raised his hand in a friendly wave. Captain Elias waved back. The fisherman smiled and pointed toward the sky, where a flock of geese was flying in a perfect V formation toward the distant hills. For a few quiet moments, the two travelers shared nothing more than peaceful silence and grateful smiles. Sometimes, no words were needed. As twilight deepened, Captain Elias continued along the river until he found a sheltered bay surrounded by graceful willow trees. He lowered the anchor gently. The boat came to rest with barely a ripple. He prepared a simple evening meal of warm potato soup, fresh bread, and a handful of ripe blackberries he had gathered earlier in the day. For dessert, he enjoyed a crisp apple with a drizzle of golden honey. After supper, he brewed a cup of calming lemon balm tea. Wrapped in a soft blanket, he sat on the deck as the first stars appeared above the valley. One by one, tiny fireflies rose from the reeds, their soft lights drifting through the evening like floating lanterns. The moon slowly climbed into the sky, spreading a silver path across the peaceful river. Captain Elias took a slow breath and closed his eyes. The gentle breeze, the quiet rustling of willow leaves, the soft chorus of crickets. Splash! 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 Everything around him seemed to whisper the same gentle message. Slow down. Be present. Enjoy this peaceful moment. With a heart full of gratitude, Captain Elias smiled into the moonlight. The little wooden riverboat rested quietly beneath the stars, while the timeless river continued its gentle song, carrying dreams peacefully into another calm and beautiful night.
The quiet night slowly faded as another gentle dawn arrived. A soft silver mist floated above the peaceful river, wrapping the water and the distant trees in a veil of calm. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat rested quietly beneath the willow branches. Captain Elias awoke just before sunrise. He stepped onto the deck with a cozy wool blanket around his shoulders and smiled at the peaceful silence. The world seemed to be holding its breath. Only the gentle ripple of the river, the faint rustle of leaves, and the first cheerful chirps of morning birds filled the air. Captain Ilias brewed a warm cup of rosemary and mint tea. As he held the wooden mug in his hands, the first golden rays of sunlight peeked over the eastern hills. The mist slowly lifted. The river awakened in shimmering shades of gold and silver. After enjoying a simple breakfast of toasted bread, fresh fags, and a little honey, he quietly raised the anchor. The current welcomed the little boat once again. Soon the river entered a peaceful canyon where tall sandstone cliffs rose gracefully on either side. Their warm colors glowed in the morning light. Tiny waterfalls trickled from hidden springs high above, falling gently into the river below. The sound was soft and soothing. Captain Elias slowed the boat, letting the quiet echoes surround him. A pair of white doves flew overhead before disappearing into the bright blue sky. Farther along, he discovered a small sandy beach tucked beneath a grove of silver birch trees. He guided the boat ashore and walked barefoot along the cool sand. Tiny shells and smooth pebbles sparkled beside the water. He picked up one perfectly round stone, turned it gently in his hand, and then placed it back where he had found it. Some treasures, he thought, belonged to the river. Returning to the boat, Captain Elias untied the rope and allowed the gentle current to carry him onward. The canyon slowly opened into rolling green hills dotted with wildflowers. A gentle breeze carried the sweet fragrance of clover and lavender across the water. Above, a hawk circled silently. Below, the river flowed with its timeless rhythm. Splash, splash, splash. Captain Elias rested his hands on the polished wooden rail and looked toward the next peaceful bend. There was no end to chase, only another sunrise to welcome, another quiet shore to discover, and another gentle day waiting upon the ever-flowing river. 38935 Penseket Muttery. The Peaceful Riverboat Journey, Part 17. The warm afternoon drifted peacefully across the quiet valley. The river flowed as gently as ever, reflecting the soft blue sky and the drifting white clouds above. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat glided silently between grassy banks, where wildflowers bloomed in every direction. Captain Elias smiled as a light breeze carried the fragrance of blooming chamomile and fresh pine. Ahead, the river curved around a gentle hillside covered with ancient alive trees and tall cypress. Their long shadows stretched across the water, creating peaceful patterns that slowly drifted with the current. A small family of rabbits emerged from the tall grass to nibble on clover near the river bank. They paused for a moment, their ears twitching gently, before hopping quietly back into the meadow. Captain Elias watched them with quiet delight. Soon, he spotted an old stone watermill resting beside a clear stream that joined the river. Its great wooden wheel turned slowly as crystal clear water flowed over its paddles. The steady rhythm blended beautifully with the sound of the river. He guided the boat to a nearby dock and stepped ashore. A winding footpath led through a fragrant herb garden filled with rosemary, thyme, lavender, and sage. The air was fresh and calming. At the end of the path stood a simple wooden gazebo overlooking the stream. Captain Elias sat there for a while and enjoyed a peaceful afternoon snack of warm oat biscuits, ripe grapes, and cool spring water. Nearby, honeybees moved gently from flower to flower, while bright butterflies floated lazily through the garden. The world seemed wonderfully unhurried. After resting, he returned to the riverboat and untied the rope. The current carried him onward through another peaceful bend. As the afternoon slowly turned toward evening, the sky softened into shades of peach and pale gold. The first cool breeze of dusk brushed across the river. Captain Elias lit his small brass lantern. Its warm light shimmered upon the calm water, dancing with every gentle ripple. Splash, splash, splash. He leaned comfortably against the wooden rail and whispered a quiet thank you to the river. Every mile had offered a new wonder. Every sunrise had brought fresh peace, and every quiet bend reminded him that the most beautiful journeys are the ones taken slowly, with an open heart and grateful eyes. The little wooden river boat continued onward beneath the glowing evening sky, gently following the timeless river toward another calm and beautiful chapter. 38936 and Seket Muttery. The Peaceful Riverboat Journey, Part 18. A gentle twilight settled over the peaceful river. The golden glow of the setting sun slowly faded into soft shades of rose, lavender, and deep blue. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat drifted quietly beneath the evening sky. Captain Elias rested at the helm, his lantern casting a warm amber light across the polished deck. The air was cool and fresh. A light breeze carried the fragrance of pine needles, blooming jasmine, and the nearby river reeds. Ahead, the river curved toward a quiet marsh where tall cattails swayed gently in the evening wind. A family of graceful cranes stood motionless in the shallow water, their reflections perfectly mirrored beneath them. Without a sound, they spread their broad wings and rose together into the colorful sky. Captain Elias watched until they became tiny shapes above the distant hills. Soon, he discovered a peaceful inlet surrounded by ancient willow trees and smooth gray stones. The water there was so calm that every star beginning to appear above seemed to shine both in the sky and beneath the boat. He lowered the anchor carefully. The little river boat settled into a gentle rhythm. Splash, splash, splash. Captain Elias prepared a comforting supper of warm barley stew, fresh bread, and roasted vegetables. For dessert, he enjoyed a handful of sweet blueberries and a steaming cup of chamomile tea. After dinner, he wrapped himself in a soft blanket and sat quietly on the deck. Fireflies drifted through the reeds like tiny floating lanterns. The chorus of crickets blended with the distant croak of frogs, creating a peaceful melody that filled the quiet night. Captain Elias opened his well-worn journal. By the light of the lantern, he wrote, "The river never asks me to hurry. It teaches me that every calm moment is a gift, and every gentle bend holds a new reason to be thankful." He closed the journal and looked up. The Milky Way stretched across the clear night sky like a shimmering river of stars. The moon rose slowly above the treetops, spreading silver light across the still water. Captain Elias took one last deep breath of the cool night air. The peaceful river, the whispering willows, the endless stars, everything around him seemed perfectly at home. Splash, splash, splash. With a grateful smile, he stepped into his cozy cabin. Outside, the little wooden riverboat rested quietly beneath the moonlight, while the timeless river carried its gentle song through the silent valley until another beautiful dawn was ready to begin. 38936 and Seket Muttery. The Peaceful Riverboat Journey, Part 19. The first light of a new morning arrived quietly over the peaceful valley. A gentle blanket of mist rested upon the river, while the rising sun painted the horizon with soft shades of peach and gold. Splash, splash, splash. The little wooden riverboat floated calmly in the sheltered inlet. Captain Elias opened the cabin door and stepped onto the deck with a peaceful smile. The cool morning breeze carried the fresh scent of dew-covered grass, cedar trees, and blooming wildflowers. He brewed a warm cup of lemon and ginger tea. Holding the wooden mug in both hands, he watched the mist slowly drift away as the world awakened. A robin began to sing from a nearby willow branch. Soon it was joined by finches, wrens, and larks until the valley was filled with a gentle chorus of birdsong. Captain Elias quietly raised the anchor. The river welcomed him once again, carrying the little boat toward another peaceful day. Around the next bend, he discovered a broad meadow where hundreds of golden sunflowers stretched toward the morning light. Their bright faces turned together, following the rising sun. Honeybees hummed softly from blossom to blossom, while colorful butterflies floated lazily above the flowers. Captain Elias slowed the boat to admire the peaceful scene. Farther downstream, a crystal clear stream joined the river, tumbling over smooth stones with a soothing melody. Beside the stream stood a weathered wooden footbridge draped with climbing ivy and tiny white blossoms. He tied the boat to a nearby post and crossed the bridge. Beyond it, he found a quiet orchard filled with apple, pear, and cherry trees. A gentle breeze stirred the branches, sending a few petals drifting through the air like soft snowflakes. Captain Elias enjoyed a simple breakfast beneath an old pear tree. He shared a few breadcrumbs with a curious sparrow that perched nearby before fluttering happily back into the branches. After resting, he returned to the riverboat. The polished wooden deck felt warm beneath the morning sun. He untied the rope, and the gentle current carried him forward once more. Splash, splash, and splash. The river wound peacefully between green hills and quiet forests. Captain Ilias looked toward the distant horizon, knowing there would always be another calm bend, another quiet meadow, another beautiful sunrise waiting somewhere ahead. And with a grateful heart, the little wooden riverboat continued its timeless journey, floating gently wherever the peaceful river wished to lead. 38937 Seket Muttery. The Peaceful Riverboat Journey, Part 20. The peaceful afternoon drifted gently across the quiet valley. The golden sunlight shimmered upon the slow-moving river, turning every ripple into tiny sparkling diamonds. Splash, splash, splash. Captain Elias guided the little wooden riverboat beneath the cool shade of tall willow trees. Their long green branches brushed softly across the water, creating gentle circles that slowly faded away. A pair of graceful white swans glided silently beside the boat. For several peaceful moments they traveled together without a sound. Captain Ilias smiled warmly, enjoying their quiet company. Soon the river widened into a calm blue lake surrounded by rolling hills. Tiny dragonflies hovered above the reeds while bright blue kingfishers darted across the surface like flashes of sapphire. Near the shoreline, a family of ducks paddled peacefully through the clear water. Their fluffy ducklings followed closely behind in a perfect little line. Captain Elias slowed the boat and watched them disappear among the tall reeds. The afternoon breeze carried the sweet fragrance of lavender and wild mint growing along the river bank. He breathed deeply, filling his lungs with the fresh country air. After a while, he discovered a quiet wooden dock beside a small lakeside meadow. The grass swayed gently as colorful butterflies danced from flower to flower. Captain Elias stepped ashore and spread a small woven blanket beneath the shade of an old oak tree. He enjoyed a simple lunch of fresh bread, creamy cheese, juicy apples, and cool spring water. Nearby, a friendly rabbit quietly nibbled clover blossoms before hopping peacefully back into the meadow. The gentle chirping of crickets blended with the whisper of leaves overhead. For a little while, Captain Elias simply rested, listening to nature's peaceful music. When the sun began its slow journey toward the western hills, he packed away his basket and returned to the riverboat. The polished wooden deck glowed warmly beneath the golden afternoon light. He untied the rope and allowed the gentle current to carry him onward once more. Splash and splash, splash. The calm lake gradually narrowed into another quiet river, winding peacefully through forests of pine and cedar. Long shadows stretched across the water as the afternoon slowly drifted toward evening. Captain Ilias smiled gently, knowing another peaceful sunset was waiting just beyond the next quiet bend. And so the little wooden riverboat continued its timeless journey, carried gently by the calm river beneath the endless, peaceful sky.